So this is a common natural progression of the consultant. Okay, we start doing the work, right? We do the bookkeeping, we do the data entry, we set up the QuickBooks files. We do the work that's sort of at the lower scale of the consultancy range. And when we do the work, typically there's a high level of involvement from us. That means we spend a lot of time doing it. There's a little bit lower perceived value because there's a lot of hours involved, and the client typically tends not to value so much of that work. And there's low client involvement, which means great, the client doesn't do much, but at the same time, all the weight kind of lays down on the consultant or on the bookkeeper in this case, because at that point you may not be a consultant. And then we progress into fixing the client's work, then teaching the client how to do it. Hopefully, at some point that they're well taught, we don't have to fix it, we just review it, which will require some minor fixing, but not so much. And at the very end, we really, where the big bucks are, the value is helping the clients make decisions. When you're in the role of helping your clients make decision, there's a much higher perceived value because decisions have huge effects to the business. And when you're involved, when the trusted consultant is involved, that's when you know if you've made that progression. Next slide here. That being said, I found in Wikipedia the definition for expert is a person who has a comprehensive and authoritative knowledge of a skill of a particular area. But there's a famous one by some physicist, I think it's Danish or something. It says, a person that has made all the possible mistakes that can be made in that very narrow field. I love that definition of expert because expert really is about falling down, falling down, falling down, and going through all the possible wrongs. So then when you are out there exposed to helping people how to do it right, you know what the wrong things are, and that really gives you a lot of perspective. Therefore, a consultant, based on Wikipedia, is a professional who provides advice in a particular area of expertise. That makes sense. There's a continuation between being an expert and a consultant. But the quote that I like in the bottom is an expert in a particular subject matter hired to apply and transfer that knowledge. I like that last quote because partly I put unknown author, but partly it's because it's my own quote, but because I am neither famous nor important, I don't want to put my name there. So we'll leave it as an unknown quote, and that quote itself may have some changes as time goes. But I think that really consultant is when you're in the position to be hired to transfer that knowledge. So therefore, how to become a consultant? Two easy steps, right? So narrow it down. There's two steps to becoming a consultant. Step one, become a subject matter expert. Step two, find a client that is willing to pay to transfer that knowledge. Now, obviously, that's easier said than done, and it kind of sounds like a joke that I'm giving you two steps into becoming a consultant, but sometimes we overthink things and we don't need to. Becoming a consultant is that simple. Become a subject matter expert, find somebody that's willing to pay for that knowledge. So let's talk about some high level strategies of becoming a consultant or the road to consultancy. Number one, high level strategy. This is what we all should strive for. Do the same amount of work, but charge more. Or charge the same, do less work. We can also do less work and charge more. Obviously, that I love that one. And finally, do other types of work that have much higher perceived value. Sometimes we are doing data entry, data entry, data entry, and then we're trying to charge more for data entry, and that's where the problem is. It's impossible to go beyond your current rates if you're stuck into the type of work that has low perceived value. And the most important part, and we'll have Ron Baker, which is the resident expert consultant on the subject matter, charge based on the value, charge based on the results, not the amount of work. There is so much involved in charging around the amount of work in the accounting industry, in the consulting industry, and the legal industry. That paradigm needs to change. We need to we need to charge based on value, based on results. I try to narrow down my experiences, both negatives and positives. Um, eh, I think I may have misspelled a word here. I think I put hot instead of how. But yeah, that's it. So the three simplest forms of ways to accentuate the success I've had in consultancy is obviously what I have learned. I try to have my firm and myself live by these three rules. One is listen. Spend 90% of your time listening and observing. Only 10% should be suggesting and problem solving. Think about what a consultant does. A consultant brings 10 years, 15 years, 20 years of experience into one particular circumstance or problem to solve, and you normally solve that in let's say 5 hours, 6 hours. So it took you, think about it, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to learn that skill that you need to solve that problem in those 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours that you were hired. So, apply that science to the act of consulting itself. Listen and observe. You need to do that first. Sometimes we jump in and try to solve the problem right away instead of waiting to get the right cues. Focus on the problem, not the solution. And again, I just moved yesterday and I made some changes to the slides, and you could tell I was a little bit sleepy. Focus on the problem, not the solution. And I'm going to say about that is I used to think about the problem the client tells me. The client tells me, oh, I need to market more. I need to be more efficient. I need to be more profitable. And I try to jump in. I used to try to jump in right away to try to come up with a solution. And the problem is that when you have a simple problem put in front of you, something like, I need to be more efficient, as a typical question that we get as consultants. Hey, help me be more productive. When they give you a simple problem, there's a problem that is stated in a very simple way like that, that is a rabbit hole. Okay, you cannot try to solve a problem like, help me be more efficient, help me be more productive. You've got to narrow down the problem. Okay, help me find out, in this particular department, why am I not being profitable? Help me find out, with all these processes in place, where the break is and what's causing the leak. So you have to narrow down the problem first before you go to the solution. And the most important one is, never try to tell a business owner how to run their business. It is so imperative. We are hired essentially to do that, but we have to be careful on how we do that. Never try to tell a business owner how to run their business. Always listen, observe, focus on the problem, suggest, and incept the idea into their head, and let them themselves come up with a solution with your help. A consultant facilitates the solution, doesn't give the solution, because if the idea doesn't come from the owner and from management, it doesn't get fully executed. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the consultant's library. Okay, and this we're going to share this slide, so I know you don't have to sit down and write it. You can take a picture if you want. I read many books over the years, and honestly, some of them I did audiobook, because sometimes I just don't have time to read. But out of all the books that I read, the ones that I have taken a little bit of piece from each one that I involve in my consultant day-to-day work are the ones here. Ron Baker's value pricing book is absolutely awesome for implementing that type of pricing into your firm. Eddie Osborne's novel or fable about the firm going into level 5 service is amazing. Dale Carnegie's book, oldie but goodie, great thing, great one. Getting things done, I think it's from the 80s, but it's a great way to organize yourself. Getting Naked, Speed of Trust. Obviously you can't read all these and over. You have to spend the time to read these books. You will get a lot of ideas from it. Last thing I wanted to share before we jump into Ron Baker is, and again, we'll make this slide public, and I'll let you look at it for a second, because it actually took me several weeks to put this together. So basically, I wanted to encompass everything that is it that we learn in that triangle, that perfect triangle of skills that our industry needs. Right? We have a triangle of skills. One is our education, our general education. One is our technical skills, and then our financial skills. We have to have a harmony in all three. There's no use in today's world to be an amazing, incredible accountant if you can't work with computers and the cloud. You start becoming irrelevant pretty soon. And there's also no use on knowing accounting up and down and staying credential wise 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because accounting itself doesn't get any deeper. Accounting, it's accounting. Once you learn it, that's it. Whereas technology moves forward and certifications and updates move forward. So my observations are that the more skills you provide on this matrix that you learn in this matrix as you move from left to right, it gives you and it opens the door to increasing your rates. Also, your role and your title changes. Right, you go from bookkeeper to consultant, and that's also the journey. And I put value pricing sort of getting stronger and stronger as the rates go higher, because the clients tend to perceive and accept value pricing more and more as your rates go higher. You're not going to value price $100 job. That's just $100 job. You value price typically things that have certain levels of complexity, and multiple team members do, and then there's a larger hourly rate that people can really compare against the value price.